I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Brought to you by Payup. Food, balls, and bad decisions.
With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft.
Food, balls, bad decisions.
What's up, guys?
Yo, what's happening? Welcome.
Who is that handsome devil up in the top corner of my screen up there? Ben, you want to do the introductions here?
I will do it. It is the one and only Dan Cody. 2003 All Big 12 defensive end, 2004 All Big 12 defensive end, 2004 All American. Great player at OU, played in the NFL. Dan Cody. Welcome, Dan.
Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, the All America deal. There is, I don't know how they do it now. There was one that was considered, if you got it, you were an All-American, like consensus All-American. There was one that was the same, almost essentially as a consensus All-American. And then there was obviously the consensus All-American being, I guess, the AP. And I don't know what the other one is, if there's two or three, but I'm sure that's maybe changed now. But anyway, yeah, for sure, part of that group, thankfully. It's all about the people around you. It's it sounds like coach speak, but it's truth. I mean, there are obviously going to be some guys out there on some less successful teams that are, going to get wherever you want to say that, get that award, reach that, get that status, whatever you want to call that. I hate to even use any of those words, but you're not going to be a consensus All-American unless you're on a good team. I can promise you that.
Absolutely.
Pretty much scary.
And got a lot of talent, bro. I mean, you're being modest, Dan.
Man,
you had a ton of talent, brother.
Well, no, I'm not. I guess as part of of course you're always going to be modest. I think that it's really about the real truth about how not necessarily how talented you are, but I'm just shocked there hasn't been another defensive end come along that hasn't just taken over. I think that could, if there could have been a guy come in 2 years after me and just lit it on fire. And in fact, the guy that was after me, Jeremy Beal, which he and I didn't play together, but he was on that same defensive line as Gerald McCoy. They played together, and he actually, for the amount of time played, he had more sacks than I did when I was at OU. If you just looked at the amount of games played, I think he did. I may be wrong on that. He had like 14 big time, 15 tackles for loss. And so, but after that, there was never, there haven't really been another DN with a lot of big stats like that. But we also, we run this 3-man front deal in half for a long time. We don't,
That's Venables' way, isn't it?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. That's, I'm like, I know it can't be as simple as, oh, we just need a good pass rusher out there and we'd be okay. Because when you look at this kid, Ethan Downs, I don't know. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about from Weatherford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big old strong kid. He never gets to rush from the edge. He did a little bit, a game or two early on, but that's how he brings all his it looks like to me all his ability to bear is to get out there on the edge and start working some some stuff from the edge, so we can get after a quarterback. I mean, that's why we were good, while we had those good teams. Well, I say that we won in 2000, we couldn't sniff a quarterback. we wouldn't know what a quarterback was if it fell in our lap. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't think we had one end had 5 sacks. But, we were so good. But it was a different game then, too, as you can imagine. Everybody was still running the I formation. Things were a lot more traditional. Yeah. Eric Crouch won the Heisman the next year, and they were running the wing team.
Yeah, just ran all over everybody.
Yeah, that's not to say you couldn't do it again. But
it's just different, man. You're right. I mean, the game is just – it's just so much different.
And it changed. And that little, Mike Leach, it makes you realize he really was way ahead of his time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Dan, first time I saw you, I was probably in 4th grade. And you were a freshman at Colgate. So I went to high school at Allen. You were at Colgate. And Allen was a district game. And I can remember I've loved the game my entire life and been a student of it my entire life. And I can remember hearing about Dan Cody. I mean, oh my gosh, this freshman kid, he's so good. He's so good. He's so good. So talk a little bit about Colgate to Ada. How did that play out?
Well, the football something that's really just fell in my lap. I grew up on a ranch out there north of Highway 3 on Highway 75, and on the west side of the road there. And my grandpa ran cows. He had cows out there, and a sizable place. Then we were working about 4,500 acres, and so. It wasn't like we were just working daylight to dark, but I did grow up working a lot. We worked a lot.
Sure.
So, sports wasn't something. My dad loved sports. He's a big time basketball player. Basketball I always thought was going to be my sport. And at Colgate, it was, coming from Colgate to Ada had nothing to do with athletics. It was, obviously when you talk about opportunity, athletics is part of that when you're talking about any school. I mean, if you play athletics,
sure.
If you played the guitar, then you'd say the same thing if it had a good
music program. Sure.
Exactly. And so, but my mom was a school teacher and had been all her life. And so at Colgate, it was we were struggling in football, but I didn't, as a kid then, it's hard to step back and look at yourself. And of course, we didn't have any kind of modern kind of program going on. I mean, I didn't do anything resembling any kind of footwork.
No training, no weights, no
well,
nothing.
I had a weight room, and I mean, I think I had more training. Maybe Joe Avenzine started the Pee Wee program down there. Who he played at East Central. I think he played at Oklahoma State a little bit, and he finished up at East Central. He started the Pee Wee program. That's when it all started for me in the 6th grade. It was like it is now, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 6th grade had a separate team, and that's how it all started for me. And he had us running through tires, old school, which is great. That's a great drill, as long as excuse me, as long as you're 11, 12 years old, because we get those big tires. They've got those big truck tires that they have there in the indoor. People will pull not so much the big ones like the loader tires that people flip, but like an actual front tire you'd see on a 10-wheeler.
Yeah.
And which I hate those. They're too can't get any speed. There's no velocity. And we can get back to training. I can talk all day about training, but
yeah, we're going to touch on that here.
We got some questions about that.
So Ada, you get to Ada, obviously a superstar there. Talk a little bit about your college recruitment. Who all wanted you to come play, and then how'd you end up at OU?
Yeah, and just was going to say, my mom got a job at Ada. It was just about the situation in Colgate. That's all about family and the community. It's a great community, but what was surrounding the school there and around the athletics at the time was just kind of a foul situation. And then, yes, being exposed to it, Ada, they developed me, which is, back to that here in a minute. That's how I wound up at OU. Talking about recruitment process. Of course, I'll tell you how naive I was in just a second. But first time I met Craig McBroom, he said, "Hey, this guy had never seen me in his life ever. He didn't even know I existed until I showed up that day." He said, "You're gonna play quarterback your junior year. You're gonna be an all-state tight end when you leave." And I played true to his word. I played quarterback my junior year, and I was all-state tight end when I left. But to start answering your part of the question on the recruitment process. You get letters at the time. It's all about the snail mail, And
yeah, absolutely.
Looking back on it, all to anything that I ever got. I think looking back on it now, because just to answer your question, hear me out. To look back on it now, I think anything and everything I ever got in the mail in any capacity was just, postcard BS. I filled out a lot of stuff or whatever. I'm not saying that wasn't part of that school's genuine process. I went to a couple of junior days. I went to the one in Tulsa, And it wasn't a bad one, but there, I wasn't, I played quarterback my junior year. I wasn't on anybody's radar. People didn't even know I existed, and that's truth. And then I went to OSU and junior day, and Rob Ryan, Rex Ryan's brother, was the defensive coordinator there at the time. And I would have gone to OSU. If they would have offered me that day, I would have gone right then and there, because my uncle played there in Leonard back in the day. And Bob Simmons was the coach.
Yeah.
And I think Rob Ryan, because we'll come back to him in a minute, but he wound up being the defensive coordinator at the Raiders when I was at going to the combine, and we saw each other again. He told me, like, he really liked me. Well, it's crazy. It was another one of those deals. He'd never seen me before. There was no tape on me. It was just kind of like the Craig McBroom deal. He just like saw me. It was like it. And looking back on it, it's crazy. It's kudos to coaches that they have that kind of vision, that to just one day look at a guy and call it like that. But that's kudos to that McBroom name and to that Ryan name as well. Of course, Rex Ryan was the defensive coordinator at Baltimore when I was. Anyway, I go to my senior year, move to tight end. The first game, we were playing Ardmore, and there was a couple from OU, from Ardmore that had been offered by OU, and then the recruiting Brian Odom, but he hadn't been offered yet. So Mike Stoops was at that game. Of course, again, that was back before the digital media. And
sure, yeah. There's no huddle. There's no Twitter. There's none of that stuff.
Man, you go to Friday Night Lights for those coaches, bro.
Absolutely.
And he came and watched that game, and then he walked up to me after the game. He said, "You'll hear from us next week," and they offered me the next Monday. So it went from never existing anywhere on anybody's radar, and I probably never caught his eye. I mean, you would think, well, maybe he'll get on OU's radar, because I wound up having a great year at tight end. Because there's always good people around me, good quarterback, throw me the ball, and a coach, put all that together. Most importantly. And so Duke was another. Duke was the other school that offered me, and they may have offered me. They offered me at the same time, and I don't know.
Was Cutcliffe still at Duke then?
Oh, I wouldn't have any idea. Now,
I think so.
Football deal, a lab.
Yeah.
But growing up out there in that ranch, we might watch the little Cowboys on Sunday, and that was it. And to get that game, I'd be out there through my dad be peeking through the door, through the garage window. I'll be out there spinning that antenna, because of, monetary issues, but just, rural part of the world back then, I mean, most of those people grow up, come on to be in that game, be All-Americans and play in the NFL. They eat, live, and breathe that shit their whole life, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, not just a little bit, but
yeah.
Growing up on that ranch is that's the reason I played in the NFL at college and why I train now, because everything I do has been anchored on living out there on that ranch and being independent and not being scared of hard work. You got to crave hard work. That's really what it's about. And
I'm telling you, Dan,
you don't hear that story anymore. By the way, you don't hear that story now. It's the kid has been known since he was 4 years old, goes to every camp under the sun, has been groomed his entire life. You don't hear about the kid that just worked on the farm and ends up
country
being an NFL
strong
prodigy.
I mean,
so Dan, I want to know. So we're switching positions. You got coaches looking at you. At what point did you know? Did you look around and like you're having a great year? You look around like, I can do this shit in college. I can go to college and I can do this. When did you know?
I don't think, like I said, I'm pretty naive about everything. And, and I'm like, it's like you got like really want to know what the story is. I mean, that's truth. Oh man, it was just the best thing I can say is just a kid. I don't think I had any idea really, even now, it's just the reflection on it now that I think it's all settling in. I mean, obviously, when you're out there competing with guys, you're like, okay, I'm as faster or I'm stronger, it's hard to really put into play there. I just obviously when the game, my coming out party was my junior year against North Texas and then the Alabama game.
Absolutely. I remember it, man, just like it was yesterday.
But yeah, you're obviously you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm playing. But it wasn't until that time that it meant that it ever really clicked for me as far as playing, just it all coming together as a defensive end. it has, there was in my high school senior year. I mean, obviously knowing you're good, and playing with guys like Brian and being recruited and playing against other teams with Division I athletes, you know that you're there. But when you don't grow up in it, though, I'm just telling you, when you don't grow up in it, it's knowing what I know now. It's just like, wow, I did not have a clue. Did not have a clue.
Which was probably good, Dan. I mean, think about it. Really, I mean, you had zero pressure on you. You're just a big dude. You're strong, and you love to play the game. I mean, everything else just didn't matter. Well,
but see, let's go back to that though. See, I didn't necessarily love to play the game. I love to work hard, and I love to play hard.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying I dislike the game, but I can promise you this: that I think I had a lot of insecurities because I just didn't really know the game.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I mean, anybody could know how to get lined up in high school football, but once I got to that next level, it just was like on such a grand scale. Of course, Ada was a great program. I mean, I'm not that there's. I don't want to sit here and paint a picture like it was just.
Well, but it's just different. It's high school coaching versus scheme by Mike Stoops and Brent Venables, and the terminology is different, and the lineup's different, and I mean everything we do is different.
Well, and they're crazy.
So the Stoops boys and Venables, are they as intense as they are off the field as they are on the field?
Yeah, of course, Mike Stoops, they were young then. I mean, hell, they were younger than, I mean, Bob, I think it was 37 or 8. Mike's younger than him. So, yeah, man, they were pretty tuned up back then. Mike Stoops and Brent Venables have a lot different personalities outside the locker room, the meeting room. And they're both real approachable. They really are, and they're really great guys. I think Mike Stoops just maybe comes across as maybe having a little bit more seriousness behind some of that hardcore shit he says, than it just being kind of in the moment. Whereas Brent Venables has a much softer side. Now I'm not saying Mike Stoops is malicious or anything like that.
Sure, no, we get you.
Brent Venables is like that bigger brother is just a little easier to approach, and he is.
So who gives the best ass chewing of the three? Who chewed your ass out the best?
Mike Stoops' ass chewings are just so sometimes it's like Tasmanian devil, just talk shit a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a guy can talk shit really good. He talks shit real well. Mike Stoops just gets so damn. Now listen, part of the reason why maybe Mike Stoops doesn't talk shit so good because he ain't in the mood to waste time and effort on talking shit. He wants to get his point across, So I don't want to sit there and say, that's what I'm saying. They both have their own little element.
It's different, sure.
Yeah, and but both equally intense and unique. It was an adjustment. One thing, like I said, Brent Venables could be is equally intense with how he's using his words and certainly his tone, but you always knew it was left at that. And Mike Stoops, maybe a little bit more of that would linger after the fact. Again, not because it was a personal thing, but he's just that serious about winning, and most importantly, me playing well, or anybody coaching playing well. But I am been always, all through my time there, looking back, obviously, I guess I've been thinking about what I would always have done different if I was coaching. And I'm just as intense as those guys when it comes to my coaching. But I tell them every day how much I love them and respect them every day. I'm not saying that I know Brent Venables and all those coaches love and respect me and always have. But I don't think doesn't bother me. They didn't say it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let them hear a lot because I'm going to be giving her hell between the whistles, and that's it's been I've had a great response from kids from that.
Absolutely. Well, so, and we'll talk more about kind of some of the stuff you're doing here in the community,
Sure.
But man, I'm telling you, I had a chance to coach with Dan this last fall with the Ada Pee Wee League, and man, those kids, they just respond. They love them. I mean, Dan will get in your ass and he will make you work hard, and then he'll tell you how great of a might you did. So I think you might got a little Venables in you. I mean, I think I might see a little bit of Venables.
Well, listen, I've been, just, the people at Colgate are great folks, and my roots are there, and my everything that makes me me is in Cole County. Without question, without question. That's true. But was just developed at Ada. But I have been coached by the best in the world as far as football goes. I mean, I had Craven Broom, which he's got to be an Oklahoma
Legendary. Yeah, legendary in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma Hall of Famer. You got Bob Stoops. He'll be a college Hall of Famer.
I think he is already.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. I was coached by Billick. Brian Billick won a Super Bowl, and then I was coached by Harbaugh, who he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Ozzie Newsome was the general manager. He is a Hall of Famer. I had a locker between Ray Lewis. He's top. Him, Brady, they're 1-1 on the best player ever. And Steve McNair, who has since passed away. I was a tragedy. But that guy, you talk about legendary in his own.
Dan.
So you're like, and Jerry Schmidt, obviously, the strength coach at OU. Anybody that knows anything about it knows
Schmitty. Everybody knows Schmitty.
We're going to have to hear a story here from coming to Ada at OU, your first or your highlight Schmitty story, by the way. At some point in this, we got to get to that.
Yeah, I would love to I have a perfect one. I'd love to
tell it. Let's go. Get to it now. That's perfect. Let's hear it.
Well, it may not, listen, it may not be the beer balls and butter but
listen, we're all age appropriate. You say whatever you want here.
That's right. Get after it.
And the good news is we're so small that no one's listening.
Might not be the action-packed thriller that you're after, but my favorite Schmitty story is, and I told this to the team when Coach Venables, which I just love that guy. When he first got hired here back, I just bumped into him, and then Jeff Levy, the offensive coordinator, and I were best friends in college, and the boys stay in touch, and we're actually going on a trip together here in 2 weeks. Levy and I are, and getting together with Dvorak and a bunch of those guys up at Grand Lake.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Schmitty story. So anyway, I was talking Venables that had me up, to speak to the team, and it was me, Ted, and Dusty. And my Schmitty story I told them, and I'll tell you the same one, is my senior year. We were I'm pretty sure it was after the A&M game, which I know I saw y'all. Someone was kind of mentioning that earlier. I saw some.
Yeah. We got a question for you on A&M game, but go ahead.
So after that next week, Stoops told us that all our upperclassmen have been coming in lifting early in the morning. Of course, this is later in the season. They can come in later in the day and lift. There's kind of a variety of times, but most people are in there, 6:30, and then like a 7:40, 7:45 group kind of deal. Or you come out there right before practice, like 1:30. And so I've been in that early morning group, and so I rolled in there, at that 1 o'clock deal or whatever, and because just going off what Bob Stoops had said, and I rolled in there, and Schmitty was just sitting there stewing, and I was just so caught off guard, and he was like, so you've been here, and he was delivering it pretty quick. And he's like, you've been here 5 years, just had the game of your life, and you're going to sit here and roll in at 1 o'clock, start changing your routine, like, have you lost your fucking mind? And it was a real serious, hard conversation. And, it melted me down the Stairmaster. But I mean, listen, dude, back then, they know why they do this now, but I had to get on the Stairmaster for an hour and a half. For an hour and a half, and then got sent, make up the lift later in the week and sent back over there to meetings. And think about that. You're fucking your fifth year senior, popping your week off at night. And I've never been disciplined like that. I've never had to have been disciplined like that ever. when I was
And it's
at.
all because Stoops told you could come work out later. It wasn't even your fault.
You know, exactly. But you know what? He didn't pull anybody else aside and say that to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that I felt.
Well, and so just from what I've known you for a few years, Dan, but from what I know, and like you hit it on the head, nail on the head earlier, kids these days, you put them on the Stairmaster for an hour and a half, and they're in the transfer portal in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, Schmitty knew you, and he knew exactly what it took to motivate you, and he pushed your buttons.
Yeah, exactly. That's my Schmitty story. That's what Schmitty is to me. You know, that's it for me, and it always has been. I've been baptizing him in his name ever since. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's my Schmitty story there for you, and always will be. And like I said, it's a real privilege that he would. You know, I would be the one that he would pull aside and say that to. You know,
Yeah.
especially the more I think about it, and you know, this training deal. I know we'll get more to that, but I just know I'm being on the right path right now because I just randomly bumped into him the other day in Norman. And you're like, wow, you know, it's like he just for that to happen, you know, he's like, I don't get starstruck around him. I still get nervous around him. Not like he's about to make me. You know, I'm like, wow, you know, I'm like, holy shit, this is him. You know,
Yeah.
that's a respect thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a respect thing. So, but he's a great guy. Just outside of, excuse me, I've always said this. No one's had more influence on me in my life than my dad and Jerry Schmidt.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So
man.
you mentioned, you know, being in the locker right next to Ray Lewis. I mean, I've never heard that. And you talked about him and Brady kind of being 1 and 1A. So, I mean, you're an intense guy. I mean, probably one of the most intense guys I've ever been around. Whenever it's nut cutting time, it's time to get serious. It's time to train. It's time to do these things. How much more of an upper level was Ray Lewis than even where you get?
Well, I guess I think part of what I think he's, you know, he can just deliver. You know, I might be intense or whatever, but I think the way he can just deliver a message, you know, something about these this kind of way, he can be so calm and intense at the same time. Maybe that's the best way I could describe it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, just really focused or, you know, just really just focused with what he's doing there. You know, my intensity might involve some words of inspiration or whatever the deal might be. But this guy, you know, really, I mean, listen, he's just a really special guy. In the 3 years I was at Baltimore, I never heard the guy say a foul word about anybody. In fact, I don't think I ever heard him curse. And I'm not even joking. And I'm sure somewhere out there, maybe there is something where he has used foul language, but I'm telling you, and he would always kind of chastise guys about it in a really respectful, playful way. But when I spoke at McAllister's football banquet in January, and I talked about just that. I was like, you know, he's the most intense player I was around, the most inspirational player I was around. In the 3 years I was at Baltimore, I never heard him talk shit on anybody ever. And that's like, you put all that together, you're like, okay, so if you want to set your standard, there you go. Don't sit.
Dan, did he practice the same way that he plays? I mean, was it just intensity the whole way?
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, even then, 2005, 6, 7. Of course, he played a lot longer on beyond that. But when I was there, you know, there wasn't a lot of contact with those guys. There obviously was, but I mean, those guys, you're not going to have the kind of contact and big hits. Obviously, you have in games like you would expect out of him. Necessarily, you know. And then he would always be at practice. Obviously, yes, the way he approached the game was like 100% professionalism, like the standard, more so than, you know, he would approach the game like a kicker would, you know. I mean, except he's playing linebacker. You know, you'd have that kind of attention to detail, the way a kicker might learn how to kick the ball, but applying that to the physicality and the time it takes to learn to play Mike linebacker in the NFL, you know.
Man, I just Ray Lewis. I mean, you say the name, you say the position linebacker, and the first person that comes to mind is Ray Lewis. I mean, that guy. I mean, I think about the brace he had on his arm. His last. I mean, the guy he just seemed like it was just all gas, no brakes. I mean, he just
well,
loved it.
when he won. I don't know that when they won in 2000, I don't think that would have. He was already with the Ravens or in the mid 90s probably, but I don't know. That'd be a good
98, I think, is 98. Was he that 98 or 99 draft?
Won a Super Bowl in 2000, so he was there 1 or 2 years and then went out on one, retired, he won one. So that's legendary status. That kind of stuff happens to people that are legends, man. That's just the bottom line. And he's a legend for all the right reasons. I can assure you that.
All right, Dan. So you brought up Ray Lewis, and we've talked about your OU. Who is the most just insane athlete you've ever played with? Just the freak athlete that's like, good Lord, seeing that guy on the field is just insane.
Well, I guess obviously I spent more time at OU than I did at Baltimore, and at the NFL level, I mean, obviously watching Ray Lewis play firsthand, what is impressive. I mean, that whole defensive unit that was there, when Rex Ryan, the whole time
Ed Reed. I mean, how good was Ed Reed?
He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Those together were impressive. I mean, really, really impressive. I mean, what took their deal to the next level was their ability to advance the ball after a turnover. They scored on defense all the damn time. I mean, that would be, I bet they're scoring defense. I bet they scored more on defense when Rex Ryan was there. Then I'd like to know in his year how many times they scored on defense, how that would stack up against other D coordinators, because I want to assure you it's a lot. And I remember we played when Steve McNair was there his last year. We got a bye. Man, the Colts they played somebody the first round, and then we had them at home. That bye was a kiss of death for a long time, because the Colts, they beat Rex Ryan said, they're not going to beat us. If they don't score, if they don't get in the end zone, they can't beat us. And they wound up kicking 5 field goals.
Oh shit!
They kicked 5 field goals. They won. He was about half-assed right, but damn, I lost my train of thought on that. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Just that kind of those defenses, that scoring defense, the way those guys would lateral that ball after they get it, all those, that secondary was ridiculous. Ed Reed, Chris McAllister, Samari Roll, Corey Ivy, who played OU,
played at OU,
was on that, and then of course Kelly Gregg up there in nose guard for Baltimore forever, OU legend, and but anyway, I mean, so. That on the NFL level, that Ray Lewis, Ed Reed athleticism obviously was, I mean, as good as anything I feel like I saw. I mean, we played Michael Vick, but he wasn't in his prime, but he's obviously up there. And then collegiate level, I mean, Tommy Harris, when he came in, I think he was still just 17 years old when he came in the summer he came in. And this guy, I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal, his size and his build. He's not terribly, when you see him, he is a big guy, no question, but it's just so stacked in the right places as far as just dense, I mean, he weighs about 285 or 90. You never kind of really know it. But hell, he was in there 17 years old, and he was throwing up 365 on the incline. He's 17 years old, so
I remember how quick he was. You remember, I mean, of course you played, with him, but I mean, how quick he was. I mean, they put him at that 3 technique, and I mean, his hands were just so quick. I mean, those guards had no chance.
Oh, hell, he kicked the shit out of our guys all day at 17 years old. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And then, of course, Adrian Peterson was obviously, I mean, you almost, he could have set the NFL broke Emmitt Smith's record, but they wound up kicking a field goal. He it was like, whatever, first and goal from the 7, but all they needed was a field goal to win it.
Yep.
And he just needed a handful of yards. He could have broke the record. That was coming off a torn ACL.
Yep.
And so I'm like, that to me, that's legendary status right there. You're pretty much one of the best to ever play the game. Might not have
when he started on that 04 team. He started as a true freshman on that 04 team, which, like you were saying earlier, back in the day, you redshirted. You didn't. There was no, there's no.
Dan's
true
got a story here. I'm excited about this. I can see.
No, I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying is he should have won the Heisman that year.
He should have. And the biggest thing that everybody said, oh, he rushed for 2,000 yards. Oh, they're playing in the national, but he's a freshman. He's a freshman. Can't give the Heisman Trophy to a freshman. And then Tebow, of course, breaks that mold. But I agree 100%. He should have.
Did Tebow get a freshman?
I thought Johnny did. Didn't Manziel get it as a freshman?
Oh, real? Fuck.
Well, I don't. Here's the deal. I don't know.
Manziel gets that shit as a freshman.
I don't know. I may be wrong.
Bridge tonight, man. No.
I may be wrong.
Let's Google that up.
Hold on. We can Google that up.
Be that as it may. Exactly. If you're a freshman and that close to winning the Heisman or being in that conversation, clearly, obviously, that's that kind of talent that to answer your question that. They'll deliver on that. Those two. Tell me two bigger talents than those two guys that have been at OU. I can't think of anybody close.
Gerald, crazy,
good player and be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. But he's not as imposing and all that as Tommy Harris.
Google confirms Johnny Manziel, the first freshman to win the Heisman Trophy.
That was Manziel. Okay,
Dan, don't jump off a bridge. Don't jump off the.
Hey, it better be a deep hole of water underneath it. Well, like I said, man, situational stuff. There was a lot of people. USC. I don't know who won it that year. Maybe it was Leonard or.
I think Reggie Bush won it that year. I think.
Yeah, let's say or he did. Which, hey, you know what? We can just. I don't know. Surely AD was second in the voting since he was back. We can go ahead and give it to AD. I guess, can't we?
After he got
technically, yeah.
Right, the recruiting deal. He was living in the house. His agent got him, and that was all took his Heisman away. Well, I don't know if they took it away, but it's got an asterisk beside it because of that. Does it not? Or am I dreaming?
Yeah, it does. They stripped him of it. You're exactly right.
Yeah, he got stripped.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they don't. So there you go. That's the power of Adrian Peterson. The motherfucker will take your Heisman away from you, even if you got it. Right. Type deal. He'll reach out and grab your throat, bro. That's his shit right there. Perfect example.
Listen, so I've got a question for you about that USC game, and if you don't want to answer it, it's fine. If it's so I was there. I remember it. We stop USC. We score. We stop them again, and we fumble a punt. Is that correct? Am I right? That's
right.
Yeah.
Does that? And I'm not trying to blame it on anybody because stuff happens.
Yeah, of course not, man. Yeah, listen, before you go. I don't give a fuck about winning or losing. I never have. Once I found out that you can't win them all, I'm like, why do I give a shit? I just know we're going to do everything up to that point. So you ain't going to bother me about any of that. So go ahead.
I felt like we had the momentum and it flipped on that play. Now, they were insanely talented. So that play doesn't happen. Does that game play out any different, or are they just more talented than we were? Oh, sorry, I just used we. AJ told me I wasn't allowed to use we.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I won't gatekeep we. It's fine.
I'm a diehard.
Well, it was one of those deals. It was just meant to be. It's such a, if you want to talk about like some play in the LSU game,
man,
I could never talk about that game.
Yeah, exactly. That USC, they were more talented than us, but I'm like, we never had a chance. Like you said, it's like one of those. It's like this, we got there probably a day, maybe 2 days before USC, and we're off the bus, full pads, scrimmaging. We were tackling Adrian Peterson in scrimmages, bro. That's how ridiculous things were, and they were just trying to recreate the 2000. Well, I just shouldn't say that like so candidly like that, but it seemed to me we were trying to recreate the 2000 Orange Bowl deal, and it was a different time, a different game. I mean, you see USC, we're back at the lounge eating or whatever, and USC's out there in just shorts and helmets, and this real straight up Southern California approach to it. And I'm like, we get to the game and get our shit pushed in. I'm like, we came here to get ready for the game, and they came there to play the game. And that's what I feel like happened that year.
Gotcha. So, Dan, you talked about not really caring about winning or losing, and you realize you can't win them all. These guys know it. I mean, I say it all the time. I absolutely hate Pete Carroll. I mean, I hate him. I hate him, and I think it goes back to that USC game. But I hate Pete Carroll. Hate him.
Yeah, good for you. Join the club. Go ahead. We all trying to figure out who hates him the most right now. Is that what's going on?
Well, I mean, so what did you think about him? I mean, did you care for him much? I mean, obviously they probably didn't recruit you, but do you think he made that much of a difference, or was that team just?
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm trying to tell you, man. He had this professional approach to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went there, this fucking old school two-a-days. We're going to tackle Adrian Peace. I mean, what if we fucking broke his ankle or something in practice? I mean, that's ridiculous. What were we thinking? So we're all wrapped up in practice stuff and like I said, getting ready for the game, and they were there to play that damn thing. I'm just telling you that right now. Or that's how I feel about it. And I'm not saying that was the difference. I'm just telling you that's what happened. I'm not telling you that maybe we could have done exactly what we did and just call it maybe the muff punt was the difference. It's just too easy to point the finger at that. Could that have gone different either way? I'm like, I don't think so. I just think there was such a bunch of difference in the score and the approaches to the game. It was just meant to be. I don't think we were kind of like TCU. They kind of bumped it, not their story ain't the same as ours, but kind of one of those deals. Their situation, they just blown their wad by the time they got there. Just too many come from behind. Yeah, Georgia was a hell of a lot more talented and all that shit. But if they got that real deal competitive TCU team, without all that other shit going on with it, maybe you get a game out of it. But it was meant to be. TCU blowing its wad trying to get there. You know what I mean?
So I want to talk about modern day college football for a second. So obviously the way that programs are ran now versus back in the day, very different. But the biggest difference is probably NIL, name, image, likeness. Players getting paid to play football at the collegiate level. What do you think about NIL, Dan?
I think that your perfect example is that I'll use as to why. I guess I'm not saying that I'm pro or against, but why I think it should exist, I guess, and it's if you were like, okay, well, I'm not going to put a number. If you're going to measure something, not in terms of value, but like here's why. Here's two things is why that needs to come together. It's why it should be. Spencer Rattler. That year coming into that year, he was going to be the Heisman hopeful. He had, made a lot off the NIL, the NIL, as we call it here, whatever, caught a lot of flack over that. Then he went on to be benched, and then they put, rest is kind of history, so to speak. However, his play in that year before that got us to that point, that got him to the point to get the notoriety of the Heisman, being the Heisman hopeful. I'll guarantee you it got bumped OU up in the rankings, obviously. There's monetary value in that he brought there, and brought to that whole deal, even though that he was wound up being benched. And that's where I'll tie into the next deal, why the portal needs to exist. He did all that shit, got him to that spot, at least got him that start for the other quarterback. There's obviously other pieces at play. He did all that, and then just be able to be set to the bench, stuck on the team for the guy you just got benched for. That's just not right. You know what I'm saying? That's just, again, I just think he should have options and shouldn't be penalized a year for wanting to go somewhere else and do whatever the hell it is you're going to do.
Yeah, for sure.
If that all makes sense. So I hope it kind of got.
No, it does. 100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So now,
Well,
hold on, Benny. Okay, so let's go back to Dan Cody's days at OU. If NIL had been a thing back then, what would your merchandise line have been called?
Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't. Even, you know what? It's easy to say now with this next level thing that I've gone with my training deal. It's easy to say it now, but that's what I would call it. With no question, I would try next level into it somehow.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I see Dan
we all
Cody
can't be lucky enough to be named General Booty and be able to have a merch line based upon that, right? So next level is pretty legit.
That's my problem with the nil is because of people doing stupid shit like that.
Come on, go on. Tell us how you really feel about it, Dan. Let's hear it, baby.
Though. For the regulations, are like, listen, you can't go out there and name your shit that and sell it.
I mean, I see like Dan Cody being like NIL'd by Orscheln's, like Orscheln's Farm and Ranch presents Dan Cody's
Tractor
work
Supply
gloves.
Company.
Yeah.
That's actually, I know that's kind of hard to put a finger on. I've always been pretty Spartan about things. I mean, I don't have any fashion sense, and for the longest time, all I wanted was a good pair of cleats and a good fishing pole, and I was good to go. But I don't know. I was when I was in college, man, and I still now. You see how I don't have an email or Facebook or Instagram.
No social media.
It was tough to get a hold of you.
Phone. Yeah.
Well, I thought the whole deal was about to blow up in our face. I was like, holy shit! I think we may have smoke signals.
Benny can help with that.
Stuff, but I've always just been so removed from that. Not that I don't know why I've always been that way. I guess part of it is part vanity and part insecurity. I'm like, I gotta stay away from it because I don't want to spend all my day looking at my shit or posting about my own shit so people can look at my shit. And I'm like, I can't fuck with it. You know what I mean?
That's 100%.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if I didn't live in a small town like this where people knew me and all that, it would be impossible to have any kind of training thing going on, without it. And it is a great platform to do things with life, and I respect the hell out of it. But I'm saying my vanity would get in the way of using it like a person, or appropriately. You know what I'm saying? That they're looking at my own stuff too much, But
that's perfect. I mean, that it fits, and like you said, I mean, there's you say the name Dan Cody anywhere near Pontotoc County, and everybody, or Cole County for that matter, and everybody knows you. This is perfect segue, Dan. So tell us what you're doing with the next level training, how you're involved with Ada schools, some of the stuff that you're doing. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it all started a couple of years ago. This mutual friend of Forrest Mazie, there's a coach over at McAllister that we all grew up together with there in Colgate. His son, Justin McKinney, is his name. Jackson McKinney is the boy's name. He asked me to start working with him, and that's how it all started. Was because of him, and I knew as soon as I finished playing at Baltimore, I knew I could be a good coach. Not necessarily a strength conditioning coach. I feel like I could be a good coach in anything.
I agree with that.
And I do hell I do now, man. I mean, I love coaching kids. But I didn't want to start over. I'm like, I'm just 3 years out this deal, and I'm about to go in here and start breaking down tape for the same guys. And it's like, I want to feel like I haven't done anything with my life. And thank goodness that my dad was able to help me out. We ran together, did a lot of great things together, and he would help me out, get my feet back on the ground. But when Justin asked me to start training his son, it opened that door up for me again, and it just kind of clicked. And doing nothing really anything special other than kind of training him, picking up kids here and there, and then this will be my third summer up at the school. That's how it all started with me. I was working with some of the younger kids there, like sixth graders. during for Summer Pride, and then it went from there to actually helping at the school for the last 3 semesters, and then working really close with Coach Jennings the last 2 semesters. And it's been a fantastic experience. I'm like, this is why, I didn't necessarily think I was ready to coach at the Division I level, but when I first kind of started doing it, I was really anxious to try to get on at OU because I just thought that that's where I'd have the most impact. But I was way, way wrong on that. Yes, I could help whatever you want to call it, a higher end or maybe a higher performance athlete, but you get so much access to kids that you can help just kind of create this foundation of, all right, this is what it means to give a shit about something and be a part of something and care about yourself and love life, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm always telling them 3 things. Are you healthy? Are you happy? Are you safe? Because unless you check those 3 boxes, we can't get through any of the rest of this done, And so it's nice to be able to kind of hit them with a little bit of my philosophy that I can promise you some 20-year-old defensive end at the end of the workout don't want to hear a bunch of that bullshit. You know what I mean? I slap a guy in the face. He's trying to hit me with that at the end.
Would you take a shot at Smitty, Dan?
Yeah, there you go. No. Still that get my heart still get racing when I get around it. Like I said earlier this week. But yeah, being at the school has been fantastic. We worked directly with the football team last summer. I'm going to go back to the junior high this summer, and I need because we have some guys younger kids transferring here to Ada. I think they want to be part of the football program, and I want to make sure that that's a priority because I have worked with the kids in the Pee Wee program. I know parents really want to consider bringing their kids here, but there's, we can't do. I can't let them do that on when it's all whimsy, all whimsical. You know what I'm saying? I want to make sure they get there. We got something resembling a program because it's just a little kind of, we've had a bunch of coaching changes and whatnot, so we need
some stability, man.
Yeah, there you go. And listen, that you're never going to be worth your shit in high school if you're not. It's developing your junior high deal. Now we got this Pee Wee deal going. Kids, and I don't want to use it as a platform to get kids from other schools to go to Ada. That is the exact last thing I even want to think about promoting. However, if kids are somewhere and want to play football, and Ada is the place that has it, then I want to provide a product, like, here you go, I got this for you if this is what you want to do, and I'll make sure I'll see it through, and at least at the bare minimum, until we get a coach in there that's going to develop the junior high program. That's going to happen for sure.
Well, and I'll talk about this. I mean, Dan, like I said, he and I coached this, helped coach. Josh Jennings helped us helped coach that Pee Wee league, and I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, my son goes to Bing. Everybody knows Landry goes to Bing, and never played football before, but loved it. Played this last fall, and I mean, Dan has made a tremendous impact on Landry. And then, Dan ends up putting together a basketball team and coaches it. I mean, and it just, I'm telling you right now, if Dan tells Landry to get out and do, an hour and a half on the Stairmaster, I mean, he's going to jump on there and do it too. I mean, you just have a great way of motivating kids. And it's just, man, it's phenomenal to be a part of it. It really is.
Well, listen, I'm humbled. You say, I mean, I'm not joking. Obviously, number one, I mean, you got kids like Landry that buy into that. That's the first line of thinking. You got to have, that's a lot of people want to say, oh, kids these days. Now, I agree. I am a kids these days, but also no one's showing them a damn thing. I can assure you. That's why my people are like, all I have the impact, you might say, or the kids I work with have the gains they do, is because they've never been shown what this is all about. Now, obviously, being where I've been, seeing where I've been, if I can't bring the best out of kids, then I ain't worth a shit about him. I mean, Christ Almighty, I better be good at it. And like I said, the one thing I am kind of proud of is I put my own little twist on it about, making these kids, making sure they feel like, just that they're good. Bottom line is that they're good, and they're going to get held accountable. But as long as they work their ass off and have a good attitude about it, then we're good to go. That's the bottom
What'd you say earlier? What's your 3 things? Tell us your 3 things again.
Oh, man, no, I may not remember.
You said work hard, be safe, and then what was the other one?
Well,
shit, we'll play it back.
It was, are you happy? Are you healthy?
Are you happy? Are you healthy? That's right. Are you safe? That's right. Yeah.
Chatty wrote that down, man.
Listen, yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, that's. And honestly, I probably use that more with my girls that I coach, which has been just so awesome. It's just such a different deal in a great way. Girls are really unique, and I want to show them just seeing what a male role model looks like too. But yeah, that's exactly these kids' confidence. I don't think that a kid's confidence is really threatened that much about having a good home life or being safe, but I do think about that their happiness is a little bit at stake sometimes, or maybe part of what's causing all that. That lack of confidence or whatever it is. And I think because I've dealt with those insecurities maybe a lot more than I ever realized, and that's why I'm real motivated to make sure that we get that shit squashed so we can do big things with our life,
It's awesome. Great words, man.
Well, so we've had Dan for 55 minutes, 58 minutes. Dan, are you good to stay? We've got you're either going to have to come back again because we've got about 3 pages worth of questions. Or do you guys want to just make this a marathon show and we just hang out?
I think it's a perfect little spot. I'm sure you guys are Seinfeld fans.
Oh yeah.
And you find great. But
2 of us are Seinfeld fans. One of us.
I've never seen one single episode, Dan. You can chastise me for it. I've never seen an episode.
I was just want to. I love. Yeah, I would. I only say bring that up just so you can know the reference. But even if you don't know the show, you'll still get it. But Costanza, you probably at least know who George Costanza is, don't you, on the show?
Yeah, the crazy haired guy. Was he the guy with the hair?
Jesus H. Christ, Benny.
Yeah.
Jumping Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Come on, Benny. For God's sakes.
Costanza, he said he's always going to go out on a high note. So every time if he says something, your ass off or likes a story, he's like, all right, we're going to go out on a high note. He'll just leave the room, so everybody's left feeling really good about him, And so
I got the high note question in.
Yeah.
Chatty, A&M, we got to know the story.
Okay. So I got 2 high note questions in. One, tell us about, so this has got to be under the bad decisions thing, I would think. Well, what happened at A&M? So I had never heard of this. I put it on a website.
The decision deal, that was going to be a tough question. I was wondering about that. Not to say I haven't made bad decisions, but man, when I don't know. I think that's the poor quarterbacks are kind of left up to them to make the bad decisions.
Defensive lineman, you just go, right? Just
that's it. You're on autopilot, but not to go ahead, not take away from.
Ask you the A&M.
The A&M. So there's a video of you getting jacked up right before the game, so hyped up you pass out. Is that so? What happened? What? And I don't remember this at all. I have no memory, and I watched every game.
Yeah,
so,
well, it happened between the 3rd and 4th quarters. And I don't know how many people. Yeah, I think you kind of had to really be. I think they talked about it a little bit, right when it first came back from commercial break. You don't have DVR or anything. So most people probably didn't even notice it at the time.
Yeah.
But it was nothing more than how you really get going, and if you just keep yelling and don't breathe, you pass out. And I think it actually, incidentally, had happened to the Duke coach, Coach K, earlier that week. I think it happened to him during a game. That's right when college basketball would have been starting, you know, there in November. And I think that's when we played them. So it just happened to him. It's obviously, it goes to show that it's not uncommon. And then that after that we went out that series. I guess we switched into the fields, and they A&M went downline option my side of the field, which I've been playing right in, been their left. And the tackle had me dead to rights. He had my ass whooped, but I just got real skinny and he reached me too quick, too good, too fast. And I just got between him and the guard, and then I had a really just a hard collision with the quarterback. It was like one of those deals. I like got sideways, you know, get skinny, as they say, between them, and then I just it was just the football gods shining upon you kind of deal. I just got skinny, and then boom, there was a quarterback because they were running down that option right at me, and so they're coming at me, and they've got me reached, but because I got skinny, overreached me. I was just right there waiting on that quarterback, and I think that maybe there was just being amped up, some residual from that. I kind of went back down there again, and I came out the game. They took my helmet for a little bit, but I was good. I mean, listen, all that stuff that happens.
You wouldn't play for 2 weeks now.
The whole safety deal is going to be a whole nother conversation. We'll save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for next time. You bet.
Anyway, that's what all went down there, but it was the most fun. Here's the high note part. We were down 21-7 going into the fourth quarter. That's why this is the funnest game I've ever played in my life. We're at A&M now. Of course, we beat them 77-0 the year before. So you're like, well, how good are these bozos? But Reggie McNeil was the quarterback. I knocked him out the game with a rib shot like second quarter. So we were playing the backup quarterback. Man, I was just like that. Here's the high note part, and I got to sign off, man. I got to get. And I want to do more with you guys. It's been hella fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the coaches down there in the media said I played like I was killing snakes. You know what? Cold-blooded shit right there. That's exactly what was happening, man. I was snake charmed.
Ice cold.
That's
man.
awesome.
Ice cold.
Oh, I can't wait to have you back, man.
Yeah, that was great, man. Yeah, you put it together. Let me know. We'll do some more, man. I'll be available.
Sounds good.
Listen, man. I know an hour out of your day is very valuable, and I mean I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. And
parents, I'm back here in their bedroom. You know, I'm like Will Smith in Wedding Crashers. You know, like, Mom, the meatloaf. I gotta go get my mom, go get the meatloaf in here.
Hey, Mama Cody, she's welcome anytime too. So,
all right, man, I got you, dog. I enjoyed it, fellas. Let's stay in touch.
Hey,
Dan, thank you, brother. Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
Dan.
Yes,
See you, man.
right. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Man, he's so good, is he not?
I'm going to tell you right now, I got caught up in the moment and forgot to talk because I was just listening to it.
You were fangirling. I
fangirled.
I got a whole
so
list
good.
of questions here we didn't even get to. I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
I wanted to ask, so we got to have him on closer to football season because I want to ask about the direction of the program. I want to ask about whether the former coach leaving and bringing Venables in as going into the SEC was the right thing. I have so many things I want to ask him. But I couldn't focus because he was so much fun to listen to.
Absolutely. Loved it.
It was a great time.
Great time.
Is there anything else we need to cover?
Man, I had on the big board for today. This game's already started. Warriors +3. We'll put that on the bad decisions.
The bad decisions.
I hate gambling on the NFL or on the NBA. Why are you gambling on the NBA? I don't know, because I'm a degenerate, I guess. Well, I mean, you got to pick a side. Pick a side and let's roll with it. See what happens. Warriors +3 tonight. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
What was the we got a PayPal bet, right? Or pay up bet, Paypal. We got a pay up bet.
We're tabling that for the next one.
It's the Will Levis bet, though. Just to remind everybody what's going on. It's the Will Levis bet.
Me and Benny shit the bed on that. We'll get it done.
Well, we started hashing it out, and then we talked about it more today, and it's one of those things where I'm probably right, and I'm like 99% right. So it's just finding some terms that I can get Anthony to agree to so I can take his money. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to.
Chatty, we've got some programming notes, right? We are off next week.
We are off next week. A couple of us are going to Cancun. I am not part of the couple of us going to Cancun.
Who would that be, Tony? You and I?
But we're not going together because you're a shit ass. But
can we put that in the pay up? Chances that Benny ends up in a Mexican jail. Can I go to the pay up?
It won't happen because he's not leaving the resort.
No, I'm not.
There's no bet. He won't
private transfer straight to the resort. Private transfer back. It's not happening.
He won't come to dinner in the most poshest place in Cancun. Like
I'll tell you a bad decision.
Posh.
I'll tell you a bad decision. Cancun, bad decision. Went on my honeymoon there. I got in a freaking Volkswagen buggy and went on a tour of Cozumel. I drove in Cozumel with no license.
Yeah, we did that too.
My tour guide ran a red light. I run the red light. The guy pulls me over and he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on here? Like, why are you running these red lights? Like, we're going to take you to jail." I mean, I'm straight up. I'm 21 years old. Bullshit. You're taking me to the American Embassy. That's where you're taking me. I'm not going to a Mexican jail. And then our tour guide turns around and, they speak for a minute and basically ends up, don't mess with my business. But, I mean, what a bad decision that was.
We did the same thing. We did the Jeep tour and we get over there and I was like, Jenny, you're driving. I'm not driving this fucking Jeep around Cozumel. And sure enough, she drove the entire time. It was awesome.
Yeah, I don't recommend driving in a foreign country.
I tell you, my bad decision. We go to Jamaica, right? And this is pre-kids and Jenny Lee will talk anybody down on anything. And don't use the word, Ben. I can hear you now wanting to say it. I can hear it in my head.
Yeah, it's so right. It's about
we're in Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and which is already kind of a rough town.
Great spot.
It's beautiful. I had a blast.
Guns River Falls, yeah.
We climbed the falls. We go down. There's this flea market, and we probably walked 500 yards under a blue tarp that you can't see the street. And she is back there wheeling and dealing with people. I was like, for the love of God, Jenny, pay the $20. Let's get the hell out of here right now. I was like, what are you doing? All to save $5 on a wooden something that's on the TV somewhere.
Good stuff.
Okay, so nothing next week. We'll be back we might be back. I have the race on the 21st. So depending on how I feel on the 22nd, we may be taking.
Speaking of bad decisions, Iron. What do they call it?
I'm doing a half Ironman.
Half
Ironman. Yeah.
So he's not even a full Ironman. He's just a half Ironman.
I'm a half Ironman.
I can do a whole segment on Chatty's competitive exercising. So we'll save that for post race. How about that?
Hey, why don't we get Dan to train you?
Hey, I'm going to tell you what. The entire time he was talking, I was like, "How do I get my kids to Ada?" Like,
here's
is he in Ada or is he in Colgate?
No, he's at Ada, and this is 100% true. So what I said about Landry is 100% true. Kinley and her softball team. Kinley has been to practice. She's been to games. She's seen Dan on the sideline. She's seen Dan. I mean, she's been around Dan enough coaching that she knows kind of how he is. And so her softball team, whenever they start slacking or they start, getting to where they're not doing what that's the first. I threatened them with Dan Cody. I said, you want me to call Coach Dan and have him come run practice? I mean, it's just, I told her that tonight. I said, Dan's going to be on the podcast tonight. And I mean, her eyes get this big. And I said, yeah, and we're going to talk about him coming coaching your softball team. And she, no. So yeah, I mean, it's just, he's intense, but I mean, he talked a lot about Ray Lewis kind of being that level intensity. And that's exactly how Dan is with his program and with his kids. I mean, it's just, he'll come and, he used to close out conditioning for us at football practice. He'd come and run them and do some sort of ab circuit. And I mean, those kids just respond to what he is saying. It's just a gift. I mean, I really believe it. I mean, it's a gift and he's doing a great job.
So is he, AJ, Ben don't know. Is he like Coop? Is he training all ages, or is he like doing one-offs, or is it just teams? Like, is he just doing teams?
No, I mean, he does some stuff at a couple local gyms, holds some workout classes. He mentioned the McKinney kid. That kid, I think he's going to be in 8th grade. But I mean, if things continue, who knows what a 13-year-old kid's going to turn out to be, but that kid has the skills.
I'm going to tell you what, the Hitch clan may be up there.
Yeah, come on.
We may be dropping my 4 off and saying, get these kids in shape.
He can do it. He can absolutely do it. He runs the Summer Pride workouts. They do, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays nights, something like that. I mean, he does Summer Pride. But, well, I mean, I agree, guys. I mean, we got to get him back on. I've got, I got through about not even a third of my questions that I had written down and sent to him. But, definitely appreciate Dan coming on, and
absolutely
just awesome, and we look forward to having him on again. So.
And I would say follow him on social media, but he's not there.
Nothing.
So,
he has nothing. You know what's cool though? I mean, it was last thing. I promise, and we'll get out of here. But how cool was it that he talked about kind of the social media aspect of it, and one, to keep him humble, and two, to not be on there talking about what I'm doing all the time. I mean,
yeah, it's a pretty cool perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I mean, I think of just tons of athletes that have played and continue to play. They can't wait to get their opinion out there because they think it holds so much water. And Dan was just like, I mean,
how much time do we spend making fun of those fools for thinking that their opinion matters, right?
Yeah.
And here's the deal: we have a podcast. We tweet about it constantly, and to get people here, to get people to see it and to watch it. But he is like, and he has a commodity that he could put out there everywhere. But he's really just letting his body of work. I mean, like,
yep, absolutely.
I mean, you want to train with the best, you find Dan Cody, figure out how to get a hold of him. If you want to get a hold of him bad enough, you will. So
that's right.
All right. So
very cool.
Real quickly,
great time, guys.
Follow AJ Thompson. AJ, what's your Twitter handle?
At Booze and Balls.
At Booze and Balls. Benny, what's your Twitter? You got yours on the screen.
Got mine on the screen. Give us a follow. We're gonna do some great things for those of you guys that are still listening. We've got some great guests lined up. We've got some crazy emails out to some folks that we think are going to come on, and so
I hope so.
We may have a professional pianist on.
That's
soon.
true.
A professional what? Say that again.
A professional pianist.
We have 3 of those every week.
Pianist, as in
pianist. Yes.
Let's go with organist. Let's try organist.
Pianist. Say it.
Pianist.
It's a hard one to say.
One that plays piano.
It's kind of like Shinola.
Pianist.
Follow me, Chad H610. I'm going to find the little thing here to play us out of here.
Oh, hold on. Brucey, if you're still on, if you're still awake, your question made chicken shit. Yes, your question made the cut. We'll get to it next.
What did he say?
I got all the new stuff. I didn't hit any of them.
You hit Dan Cody with a chicken shit, there's going to be problems.
I was not. I kind of had the same reaction he has around Schmitty. I was like, I'm not messing with this guy.
You still do it. So
you heard me. I apologize for my question about USC. I was like, listen, if you don't want to answer it, I understand.
No, it's great,
dude. I remember being in, and I know AJ, you got to go, but I remember watching that game and just thinking we were just as good a team.
Was it JT? I think it was JT Thatcher that fumbled. Was it JT Thatcher?
I think it was Jarrell Jackson.
Yes, you're right. I think
it was right in front of us. Jenny Lee and I sat in that end zone right where it happened. We stayed at the Fountain Blue. I remember we stayed there in 2000 and that year. So anyway, oh well. All right. Until next week, guys.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, we're live.
2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks from today. Hopefully, 2 weeks from today. We'll see how I'm walking around.
See you,
right.
See you guys.
See you, fellas.